You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, happy Monday. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show. It's wonderful to have you with us here on 702. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and I hope you're good this morning in this drizzle. Is it still drizzling outside? Please be safe out there. We have visitors this week in Mzansi. Are you ready to play host? It's the G20 summit this week. We have world leaders coming. We have assumed the presidency of G20 group of nations for the first time ever. So this is a big deal for us. The G20 leaders have for decades sought to collaborate and build consensus on mutual global issues. And this year, we have been privileged enough as South Africa to host those collaborations and discussions that have now culminated into the summit taking place this week. And we've probably by now hosted over 100 meetings. I think initially we wanted about 100 and the plan was to host about 130 meetings. I don't know if we've particularly reached that, but probably over 100 meetings that we have hosted so far. Meetings throughout the country. And we've used those meetings as a great opportunity for us to showcase our provinces. So I guess the question is, how have we used this G20 presidency to our advantage? And I know we'll have a fuller answer to that after the summit, but from the meetings that we've had so far, as South Africa, as a continent, what do we hope to leverage from this great opportunity? What must government use this opportunity this week to advance? I'd like to know what your thoughts are. I've always thought, the G20 presidency gives us the opportunity to strengthen the voice of the global South, because that voice needs to be louder and louder and needs to be taken seriously. To lobby for the restructuring of the multilateral organizations like the United Nations Security Council. We've made so much noise about this on this show in the past. We want to increase collaboration. Of course, we want to secure greater trade relations. We want to be able to increase investment and we want to push for peace and security and democracy as well. What do you think is the rare opportunity that this G20 presidency gives us? What are your hopes and expectations? Because this week is big for us as South Africa. 011-883-0702 is the number to dial this hour on the 702 open line. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. And what differences have you picked up, by the way? Are there any streets that are now cleaner than usual? Are there roads that are without potholes now for the first time ever in a long time? Are you seeing police visibility? What have you picked up that's new? Because that shows that something special is happening. Something that shows that we have visitors. Are you picking up anything at all? Maybe the road you usually use coming or going to work is a little different now. Maybe there are already some closures or just no potholes, or the traffic lights are working. You're seeing police visibility. What is it that you're picking up? Give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note. And I also want to know if your industry or business is benefiting in any way from the G20 this week. From this week's activities, what are you expecting? Maybe you're in the hospitality sector. Have your hotel rooms been booked to capacity? Or maybe you're in the security sector. Are you getting any business? Whatever industry you may be part of. Maybe you're an Uber driver. Do you expect a lot of activity this week? As a police, maybe you've been asked to work extra hours. 011-883-0702. But seriously, we do have visitors from other countries this week. So in your small little way, let's welcome them and give them the warmth and hospitality we are known for. Did you hear what happened at the ANC NEC meeting this past weekend? Reports suggest that President Cyril Ramaphosa dared NEC members and political detractors to stop discussing his exit in dark corners like cowards and tell him to his face if they want him to resign. Ramaphosa told the NEC that if he's asked to resign, he will do it, and he could even do it tomorrow, the next day. And these comments come as there has been speculation about what the future of the president looks like in the ANC. In fact, there have been media reports already that he's planning to resign after the G20 summit, and that has already been denied. Where do you think these rumors come from, number one? Because that's how it really naturally begins, eh? When Thabo Mbeki was forced to leave office, that's how it started. When the former president, Jacob Zuma, was recalled, that's how it started. It normally starts with the rumors. People start planting stories. They tell journalists that, we've got information for you. And then they give them their own evidence. Journalists, some of them start running the stories. And then you start hearing reports about who could be the possible caretaker or someone who becomes president while that person is recalled. And that's how it begins. And that's why you've already started seeing stories and opinion pieces written about the former president Thabo Mbeki and whether or not he's positioning himself to be a caretaker. These are people's views. They could be wrong or right. Some people are whispering things about Togo Titiza, the Speaker of Parliament. But this is how it begins. But I'm interested in what you think is at play here. Do you see the president seeing out his term, unlike his two predecessors? The ANC has refuted these claims that the president won't finish his term. Here's the ANC spokesperson, Noneba Mhlawuli. In fact, I'll play you that clip in a moment of her this weekend refuting these claims that have been made by some of these. You've got it, Abel? All right. Here's what she said this weekend.
Of a departure lounge. I'm not sure what departure lounge that is, but as far as we are concerned, there is no departure lounge in the National Executive Committee. This National Executive Committee, with its president, was elected in December 2022. Our term ends in December 2027, and our term will end with President Cyril Ramaphosa as the president of the ANC, where he will then be handing over, if he doesn't, of course, decide to stand for that term. That was that in jest. That was a joke. but to answer your question, there is no departure lounge. President Ramaphosa is the president of the ANC, and that his term ends in 2027 in the ANC, and that whatever other rumors that are there, we cannot speak to or verify for any other reason. On your question around the reasons, I have indicated that it was a decision of the NEC that remember the decision to have the closing remarks open and closed is really something that is decided by the leadership of the ANC, to say that there are issues that we feel that we should communicate publicly, and sometimes there are issues that we communicate after the meeting.
So that's precisely what she has said. But she's saying it and she's so sure. And I bet you other ANC spokesperson in the past, when there were rumors about Thabo Mbeki or Jacob Zuma, probably said a similar thing. But hey, let's wait and see how it goes. What do you think is at play here, though? And I wonder what you think things would look like if the president just was recalled or decided to resign and didn't see out his full term. What do you think that would mean? Not only for this country, but for the African National Congress. I wonder.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Kustas, you're calling us from Midrand. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Dear Clement, I'm hoping that those rumors about Ramaphosa leaving actually become true. Clement, when you analyze the presidency or the leadership of Ramaphosa throughout the country, you can sum it up in one way. Things have gone from bad to worse under him. And therefore, we cannot keep a man who's failing on the job and we think that he's going to do things better. Now, the recent comments at Clement on the gala of the Navy, the Chief Admiral of the SA Navy, Clement, concerned me deeply. He says that the South African National Defence is being defunded by National Treasury. And there's proof to that effect, because what happened in the DR Congo shows to the fact that the military is being defunded, but it's not being publicly stated so. Now, the public-private partnerships that President Ramaphosa is doing, the Navy boss says that a private company must police the waters of South Africa. Can you imagine, Clement, that how much government money is going to spend to give that money to a private company, and yet they cannot give it to a military organization that would actually employ far much more people than it would to a private company? So I'm suggesting, Clement, that when you analyze Ramaphosa and his government, he has failed dismally. Clement, he has been failing on economic policy. He has been failing to deal with crime. He has been failing to deal with corruption. And so much so that now we are being disrespected by all Tom, Dick and Harrys from across the African continent, even the world, who just want to rock up via back door. And then the next thing we say, we don't even know people. So there is such a high level of the breaking of the rule of law in the country, to a point that there can only be one way. He must leave. And I hope that the NEC would get the courage to do so, for the benefit of South Africa, not for Ramaphosa, because that's a problem. They think that Ramaphosa is not South Africa. When military generals are unhappy this way, when security services, SAPS is unhappy this way, and when Andrew Chauke sits in office 2 years later, causing damage, and he doesn't remove him, when he was told, that shows me and shows all of us that this is not the guy who is for South Africa, he's only for himself. And two, he sits there at the benefit of DA. So he must go. Thank you.
Kustas in Midrand, thank you so much for your thoughts. And remember, this is not even a discussion that the NEC has had. I'm just asking hypothetically what you think would be the consequences, if any. But the president basically over the weekend said, I dare you to tell me to my face to step down, and I will, if you say so. What I'm saying is, this is how it normally begins. There are always going to be denials. The ANC will refute. And then the president will say, if the ANC wants me to leave, I will leave. It normally starts like that. And then the people against the president will start planting stories in the media. The people for the president will start putting out the positive things that he's been able to do. And then boom, one day there's someone who stands up in the NEC and says, I think we must have this conversation. But also that depends also the kind of support the president has in the NEC. And so far, you could argue that he still has some considerable support. Tabogo, you are in Davidton. What are you expecting from the G20 summit?
Oh, thanks, man. I'm currently expecting nothing. The reason behind that is that we are expecting a bunch of rich people or rich countries to come and dictate how our policies are actually going to be looking like.
What do you mean dictate?
So our own government at this current point isn't doing enough for its country, isn't doing enough for the poor, the marginalized communities, the working class, right? And that G20 setting is going to be pretty much influential when it comes to policies that perpetuate capitalism, right? And on a ground level now, even most people in our communities don't even know the essence of why the G20 is actually convening. And we speak about it in the news and radio in bits and bits of pieces, but then we are not expanding to what the G20 is currently.
Tabza, I don't know if have you listened to the radio the whole day, every day, since the beginning of this year?
I have.
So you listen to all the radio stations every day at the same time?
No, not at the same time.
Okay.
So what I listen to 702.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. What I'm trying to say is you can't make a statement like that. So you don't know that there's no conversations that have been had. I can tell you here on this station, we've been intentional about having so many conversations about G20 and B20. And if you don't mind, I can send you podcasts of those conversations where we explain what it is and why it is so important. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, we have another scheduled conversation for Wednesday we're going to have a conversation about what is this thing and why does it matter for you as a South African. But also to correct you, Tebogo, G20 doesn't dictate to a country what to do. G20 summit is actually a multilateral platform. These are conversations that leaders are having about the issues that face the globe. No G20 has ever gone to any country and said, this is what you must do with your own policies. So I'm not sure what your reference point is there.
So my reference point, Clement, here is that we have been in spaces where we have been talking about the G20 and the intentions behind the G20. Hence, I'm even saying in this call now that we are in a position where our country isn't doing enough for South Africans, right, and people that live in South Africa. The poverty is very dire in this country. The working class are still being taxed, right? And we want that G20 summit to then address how do we tax the 1%, the rich of the richest in this world, compared to how we are taxing ordinary citizens, right? We need to ensure that the richest people in this country, in this globe, are actually taxed much more compared to an ordinary citizen. Because if we actually want to address these current inequalities that are being faced in the world, we need to go to that basic route. Hence, I'm even saying to you now that the reason I'm saying that there isn't much education about this is that I'm talking this on a community level. It's very rare to find these conversations happening on a ground level. Yes, they can happen via radio. You can inform people about what the G20 is, but on a community basic level, how do we go in these communities and ensure that we will populate popular education material to say, this is what the G20 is saying, what's your intake on this, right? Because I think the assumption that maybe if it's on TV, if it's on radio, it's very pretty much informative. No.
Got you.
We
so
need
have
to go to these communities.
and have conversations with the communities, and government could do that, whether through the GCIS or through other forms, to say maybe, and that's a way to also get the communities to tell the government what they would like to hear. Or what their expectations are from the G20. Or maybe the government just thinks of it as a high-level conversation with the world leaders. But to be clear, I mean, G20 addresses issues, global issues. They build consensus on mutual global issues. No G20 comes and wants to dictate to a country what their policies should be. Debza, thank you in Davidton for your call. It's 28 after 9.
The Voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
On 702.
25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Let's continue with your calls on 011-8830-702. Your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. I've been asking you about the G20. Are you ready to play a host as a citizen of this country? Because the G20 summit takes place this week. We've got world leaders that are coming here, and they will be having important conversations and building consensus on mutual global issues. And this year we have been hosting a number of meetings and discussions that are now culminating in this summit this week. Have you picked up any new things? Anything different that you've picked up? Perhaps roads that are more cleaner, perhaps more police visibility, but the more interested also in how you're benefiting. Maybe as a hospitality sector, has business picked up? As an Uber driver, are you expecting a lot of activity this week? Or maybe you've already started experiencing a lot of activity. Maybe you're in the security sector. Have business picked up for you as we prepare for this G20 summit this week? I'm also asking you about the comments made by the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa daring his detractors to stop discussing his exit in dark corners like cowards and come tell him to his face if they want him to resign. And he said, if you tell me to do so, I'll even leave tomorrow. What do you think is at play here? What I've said is, with my experience, this is how it all begins. And I wonder if this is going to end the same way that it ended with President Cyril Ramaphosa's predecessors. Let's go to your WhatsApps.
Hi, Clement. Morning, Clement. Morning, brother. I'm an Uber driver. Yeah, we do expect some activities, at least in Yana or Hono Pushanyana, at least inyana something yana yogodimunyana ubone because of tutsarna vela transpare these days man Spanish are class anyway. But now, honestly speaking, I'm just worried about why should they be doing things now because of G20, it's coming and whatever. Now my wish is just that why in this week in Johannesburg strong should rain, because we know when it's raining it will expose them, or no, they are doing nothing because our drainage system anyway is not working. The water is always flowing on the road, like we don't even know where to go when it's raining. So I just wish we can pull a kind of strong, then whatever that they thought what they are doing to pretend as if things are okay, it should expose them or things are not okay.
Morning, Clement. Nothing I'm benefiting, and I don't think I'll benefit anything from this G20. In this government, you are 35 years of age and over, you don't get funding. Funding is for the political elite only. I've got a company since I don't know when. I've never received any funding from the government. It's our spaza shops. That sector is gone. Right now, I'm an Uber driver. The Uber charges smallest prices, the smallest 23 rand, 18 rand. You know, we are just getting used left and right as black communities here. So I don't think anything wow is going to come out of this G20. We are suffering. We are still going to suffer. Our children is going to suffer. No one is out there for us. The government is not out there for us. It's for all these other foreigners and the rich people and for the political elite only. Also from Naledi.
Morning, Clement. Morning, 702 Land. Mpo from Johannesburg South. Clement, is funny how things are happening when there's guests. You know, it reminds me of when I was growing up. You know, my mother will take out those plates, you know, and those pots and those cups and glasses that, you know, we were never allowed to use. You know, we could only use them only when there were visitors. This G20 feels the same way. Feels like we are being neglected all the way as South African citizens, but only when there's visitors, then ubkazi siyashine shawi sprinkling yakhanya. Yeah, no, this government, I'm telling you, they don't prioritize their citizens, but they prioritize anybody who's not the citizen of South Africa. Yeah, I wonder where we are going.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
Do we complain when our parents take out like the special, you know, cups when they're visitors, the special plates when they're visitors? I mean, isn't that just the nature of how we do hospitality, just generally? Like, if there's special things happening, you know that your family actually does spring clean. Maybe your mom has been complaining, or your dad, that we haven't cleaned this house in 6 months properly. But when the visitors are coming, or there's like a ceremony, then you start cleaning properly. Isn't that just the nature of how we're supposed to do things? And look, I get your point that there are certain things that have been neglected by our government. They should have addressed them and attended to them. They failed to do so, and they only want to do so just because they are visitors. Some things are just so basic that you don't need to wait for visitors to attend to. But having said that, I also understand that, I mean, there's no country that's going to host such an important meeting and they don't do anything to prepare. So that would be weird to expect us, like our government, to just go, oh, let's just open the doors of the Sandton Convention Center and let's just have these leaders, and we're not going to do anything to prepare and clean up and get ready for the visitors. Rakwena, you are calling us from Pretoria North. What do you want to say about President Cyril Ramaphosa?
Yeah, hello.
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to comment about this thing of the ANC, Ramaphosa president, and so on. My point is here, it's not that I support Ramaphosa, but people who always say these things of presidents going away, removing this and that, they normally will not give you an alternative for who must come in to replace them. They do. They will just say, let him go. And when you ask them who must come in, they don't say it, because the question is, you can't support people who don't give you an alternative, because you may find they want to bring in somebody who's worse than Ramaphosa. So it is always fair that when you say Ramaphosa must go, give us an alternative then if it's a worthy person with good credentials, we can support that. And now that also takes us to another point. When you expect a president to do something in this country, we should also consider that this is not a one-party state. There are certain things that a president is also limited from doing. You know, a president in South Africa cannot go around shouting orders and forcing things to run the other way, because they'll take him to court. That's what we've seen already. And the last thing that I want to put here on the table is that Mbeki, not very long time ago, raised the issue of changing the way we choose presidents. And I think that would be the most appropriate thing to do, to change the constitution and decide, for people to choose the president they choose, they want, because that will be a fair way of choosing a president than to have a political party giving us a person that they want because they want to achieve certain things.
Don't hold your breath, because there have been so many recommendations for the changing of our electoral system to give effect to that, exactly that. And political parties just don't support that. I bet you the party, even when the Chief Justice through the state capture commissions, the recommendations, you could tell from political parties that they're not keen on that, because then you're taking the power away from them. They want power themselves. So throughout the years, and it's not just during the Ramaphosa presidency, the Van Slabet report, the Kgalema Motlanthe report, I can go on and on. There have been recommendations to that effect. But we just have politicians who are not interested in making that the reality, because they don't want accountability to be centered around you. They want power themselves. So, I mean, that would be great, probably, but don't hold your breath, my friend. In Brackwena in Pretoria North, thank you for your calls. Let's go hear from, is this Edward who's calling us from Glen Vista? Edward, hi.
Hi, Clement, how are you, sir?
Sure, man, go ahead.
I'm all right, thank you. Man, I'm just worried about people like Kustas for encouraging that the president of the country must be sucked in. You know, there was Elon Musk's father. When they say the black people, they're feeding the black people. You know, we actually, you know, supporting that narrative that black people cannot use their minds. I mean, President Ramaphosa is not, I don't understand why they're saying he's a useless president. I mean, he's trying his best. He's trying his best by at all costs. But now, for that narrative that, no, you must put, and he doesn't suggest who must be put it in. And then besides that, look at the era of Thabo Mbeki. Thabo Mbeki was doing well, and then people like saying, no, he's doing nothing. He's going up and down. America and South Africa is doing nothing for the country. And they put a puppet like Zuma, of which he destroyed the country. Now they want to do the same thing. And people like Elon Musk, they also look at these blackies. Look at these, Gasparos. They basically stupid. You know what I mean? And I don't understand it, how people think. You know, we must be proud of being like Africans. We must be proud of being, you know what I mean? Like, and let's support what is going forward. You cannot put people, look, we cannot support the narrative of going backwards all the time. I mean, like, if we sack the president, this country will go backwards. The African country will be affected. The country will be affected. Everything will be affected. I don't understand it. Why? Yeah. Where is that mind? Where is it coming from? You know, this whole thing is about destroying the country and destroying and then giving these people like Elon Musk's father, you know, a joy and say, look at the black people, how useless they are, because they can't think. They will always be selfish. Look, there's people, they say, look, I mean, this G20 is not doing well for them. It's not about, it's for the country. It's not about, you know, it's not about myself. If I'm not benefiting anything, yes, but there are people who are benefiting. I must rejoice because, look, I mean, like, catering industry will be benefiting. It's not everybody must be benefiting. You must be patriotic. This is what is important.
Okay, Edward in Glen Vista, thank you for your call. Let's be careful even in our moment of passion, right, how we use the words. Then I apologize on his behalf for the usage of that K word earlier on. I think we need to be very careful as to how we even characterize each other. We don't have to revert back to the words that have been used against, especially us as black people, that have been used in a derogatory form, whether that is what people say in the dark corners or not. But I think I do take the point that he makes. We all can have different views. Kustas says the president must go because he's been useless. He's got every right to say that. And so do you. You've got every right to also say, but the president has made such huge improvements. Why do that when the president has done his best? That's also fine. So that doesn't mean that the other people who think the other way are just terrible people who don't care about this country. That's just their view. And that's why we've got the open line to debate that. It's 14 minutes now before 10.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
12 minutes before 10 o'clock. Let's start with your WhatsApps.
Cyril Ramaphosa magahambe. After this G20 thing that is prioritizing so much, that is cleaning because the visitors are coming. He's going. He knows he's going. He's not going to finish his term. And when it comes to this G20, Trump is not coming. We don't have an ambassador. They don't have our ambassador. China is not coming. Japan is not coming. Brazil is not coming. Putin, obviously, the international court has issued a warrant of arrest. So this G20 thing is meaningless. It's useless. It's focusing on Joburg. They are benefiting in Joburg. What about the other areas? You're asking a question now whether I've seen anything clean. No. To us, the status quo remains because the president says you only clean when there's visitors. So in the other parts of the country, we don't have visitors. It's 30. Sindile.
Sindile, I do think you're mistaken, my brother. Just the fact that there are certain world leaders that are not coming to the G20 doesn't mean that it invalidates the G20 platform and its multilateralism. It doesn't. And in fact, if you go check, this is not the first time that there's a G20 summit and there are certain leaders that don't make it to that G20 summit. So maybe check that first, because then you'll make the mistake of thinking, oh, the problem is South Africa. It may be on the point of Donald Trump because he has chosen not to attend for a specific reason based on false reports and fake news. But actually, if you go check out other G20 summits, you'll see that there are instances where some world leaders have not been able to go. Also, go check where Xi Jinping has been. Xi Jinping is not even in Brazil, wasn't even there for the COP conference because of whatever reason. But he actually hasn't been traveling much around. Whether he's not well or he's got priorities in his country, I'm not so sure. So that context also matters. Otherwise, you're falling into this false narrative about South Africa being an issue for world leaders and that being a center of their decisions on whether or not they're coming to attend the summit.
Good morning, Clement Manyathela and the 702 listeners. Look, man, the problem is not the president in the ANC, it's the ANC itself. Remember, they removed Mbeki, they removed Zuma, they want to remove Ramaphosa, but the problem is still the same. The ANC must vacate power. They must move the ANC from power. I'm from Pretoria.
Clement and the team Taban from Cape Town. Clement, with me, with the ANC, I would think they need to grow up and stop this thing of recalling people whenever they feel like they're not happy with the next person. They can't wait for their person to take over, whatever that means. So I think instead of them plotting for Cyril to retire as the president, rather they work on finding a proper candidate, because right now they're going to have the same situation over and over and over again. Rather they go find a person who is going to do a way better job than, I don't know, because what they're doing, they need to grow up. This thing of recalling people whenever they feel like their needs are not met, it's the reason why we're here at this time as a country. They need to grow up as a party.
You get the award for, probably the best caller today. But that's true. The ANC needs to grow up. At what point, is this going to be then this is like the status quo. It's like it's expected now that as a president, no matter how bad or good things are going, they'll always find a reason to recall you. And it's all about their political expediency, these people who are pushing for these things. So I couldn't have said it better. They must just grow up, because this is exhausting. 7 minutes before 10.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
5 minutes before 10.
Good morning, 702. Good morning, Clement. I disagree with a lot of the callers that are calling. I'm sensing a lot of negativity towards the president, towards the G20, towards any sort of progress that South Africa makes. Why is it that South Africans always have to focus on the negative? There surely are positives out there, or where the country has made strides. We tend to forget the positive, and we need to change that mindset. If we don't have a positive outlook on things, we're always going to get a negative outlook. So the majority of South Africans are pessimists, and it's very disappointing, because if you look at the most successful countries out there, they are patriots and they stand behind their country. An American will stand behind Donald Trump, who's doing the most horrendous, making the most horrendous decisions, and still we overlook that. They're also going through issues. Every country is going through issues. So sometimes we need to look within and start being positive for positive things to happen. Molefe from Report.
Yeah, Molefe, look, I slightly agree with you there, but I want to provide some context. I agree with you that sometimes we are so negative. That's why I said earlier on, this is what we normally do when we've got visitors, but for some reason, people are expecting us to just open our doors and host world leaders without making improvements? I mean, that would be wild to do. Any country will always do that, right? So I agree with you that we need to maintain some level of positivity. We can't just be pessimistic about everything. Like anything that the president or government does, negative. But at the same time, I also do understand why some people are just frustrated and they take that negative posture. Because there's someone out there who has not had power for the last 2 years or for the last 6 months. But now they are going to have power for the next 4 days or for the next 5 days. Why? Because there's a G20 happening. There are people who have been calling on the police to come and be visible in their communities. There are people who have called on certain infrastructure issues to be attended to. That has never happened. But that's going to happen this time around for the next 5 days because there's a G20. So that can be frustrating. So we need to be able to understand that there are people who are going to be pessimistic from that point of view. And they are legitimately upset. But equally so, there are people who are just doomsayers. Everything you do or say, you'll never, ever, ever get them to see the light. They are just so pessimistic. And I just don't think that's healthy. Stephen, you're calling us from Randburg. What are your thoughts? Hi. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Clement. How are you doing?
Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to quickly just make a comment with regards to Ramaphosa. I think for me, this is deja vu. And I think I concur with you when you say this is how it starts. I remember, I'm old enough to remember 20 years ago at the University of Pretoria, on the eve of the NGC, Thabo Mbeki looked very strong as a leader of the ANC. And at that NGC became the turning point to what would happen in Polokwane 2 years later. We've got an NGC coming up in December, between the 8th and the 12th of December. And I can tell you it's the first time the branches of the ANC will be congregated in one place since the GNU. And listening to the ground and listening to some of the ANC members on the ground, they are not happy with that GNU. And I think a lot of it has got to do with the memories that are going on in the ANC corridors to say, do we still keep this man here? And I think this is the start of it. And they're putting out the feelers, they're putting out the waters, they're trying to put in an iron wall as the NEC that nobody must dissent. But let me tell you, when the branches meet, anybody can stand up. Just like Nathi Petro stood up at that 2005 NGC and said Zuma is not going anywhere, when Thabo looked very, very strong. And I suspect that there's something that's going to happen at that NGC. And then also, I think we get bogged down, Clement, with personalities in the ANC. The ANC has been in power for 30 years. Why do we go to the whole cycle of saying, oh, it was Deputy President Thabo Mbeki to Nelson Mandela, as if we separate their legacies? It's one party. It's one party. Like, why do you separate the legacy of Cyril Ramaphosa when he was part of the top six with Jacob Zuma? Why do you separate the legacy of Thabo Mbeki, of Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki when they were both in leadership in the top six? So I think that whole thing just needs to stop. At the end of the day, it's one political party. And then lastly, Ken, it's just, I know you're running out of time. Misinformation documentary yesterday on CNN. What a brilliant documentary it was. Very balanced in terms of how it characterized this whole narrative.
Is it the one with Elon Musk's dad?
The one with Elon Musk's dad. It also had Eugene Koza there. It also had Trevor Noah there. It also had quite a number of people making comments there. It was absolutely brilliant.
Okay, I'm going to check it out, Stephen. After the show today, I'll go watch it. Thank you for calling, Stephen, and important things you've raised, especially about the NGC. Something is brewing. These stories you're seeing being planted in the newspapers or being reported, it's got something to do with that important NGC conference coming up in December.